Okay. I'm hoping everybody sees. We're going to start off with a little light. Uh, I'm going to my strong suit, which is basketball. Uh, so we have the beginning of, we're still in the beginning of the women's uh, NBA season, and we have a new team, the Valkyries, and they're filling up the Warriors Chase Center every game, 18,000 people, and I've mentioned this guy before, Brandon Podziemski, and in his second year with the Warriors, and he's decided to become their cheerleader. It's a lot of excitement. So the excitement continues. And why is he doing this? He felt that since women basketball players came to Warriors games, that his sisters developed his support. Also, he's got a close relationship with the coach and has even been involved in making recommendations on which players to draft. And every night he wears a different numbered jersey for rotating between all the players on the team, hoping that the 18,000 fans will go to the Valkyries store and buy jerseys. Um, and this is him. His nickname is Pods. He was Mr. Basketball in Wisconsin. Ed knows from going to high school for a few years, at least in Chicago, that Mr. Basketball in the Midwest is a big deal.
Right.
The number one high school player. He wound up at Santa Clara, and the Warriors picked him in the 19th, and he made all rookie his first season. And here's an interesting thing. You might guess from his last name, he's Polish. And since he has no chance of making the American team, Olympic team, he's going to play for Poland. So go figure. But we've had that before. Nigerian women who went to Stanford wound up playing for Nigeria in the Olympics. Okay, so the question of the week, where's the outrage? So I'm sorry we have to leave the good news behind and basketball behind, but this is a columnist I follow. He is basically a conservative, but he's a never Trumper, and he's rational. So I like him. And so he's asking, where's the outrage? And there should be outrage. Look at who's benefiting from this. So take a deep breath and look at this graph that the economist did. So the net effect is the percentage increase or decrease that you'll either benefit from or suffer from this new bill. And you can see that the lowest, the poorest 10%, so this is decils, the poorest 10% is going to have 4% less coming in. And most of that is transfers. And you can see the poorer you are, the more you benefit from transfers and assistance, like Medicaid, for instance. And so here, just as we've been reading about, the wealthiest people will get the highest boost of their household income. So it's really more morally reprehensible. And so the other thing it does is, in terms of the debt we're leaving to our grandchildren, this bill is going to add to the debt even more. And we're just hovering, going over 100% of the GDP as debt. But by the time the effect of this bill is over, which is a 10-year span, a decade, we will have racked up a lot more debt. So really nothing to be happy about at all. And in fact, if you look at the polls, this bill is less popular than Obamacare was at a comparable time. Yes, Jim.
I have a basic question. So this
Yep.
is a 10-year budget projection or law, but can't Congress change these things at any time?
Well, it's hard to change any single thing, and that was Trump's strategy, was to throw everything in, and so there'd be something in the bill for everybody. Um, and yeah, you can go back and change individual things, but that's hard. That would be hard to do, but it's doable. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. So it doesn't poll very well. It polls worse. So it's when we say underwater, that is the favorability minus the unfavorability. And so if you're underwater, it's more people look at it unfavorably than look at it favorably. And this one is 29 points underwater, net negative. The Republicans are unenthusiastic about the thing as a whole. But everybody seems to be kind of subdued. And why is that? The only person that's not subdued is Elon Musk, and Trump is hinting about having him deported if he doesn't shut up. So that'll be an interesting about that. That is just a little glimmer of something positive, the entertainment value of that, but it pales into the moral failure of this bill. So and yeah, Jim.
I thought Trump or Musk was a U.S. citizen.
Yeah, but as we've seen, our government the government can take away the citizenship of a naturalized citizen under certain circumstances.
Right. Hello.
Hey, boss.
Yeah, Carol.
I think there is also some question about how he came into the country. So there's some legality questions about that. But I don't remember. Someone in this group probably knows that the answer to that more specifically.
Yeah. Anybody have insight into how Elon Musk got into the country? We know you can pay your way in with $5 million. I don't know if he was one of them.
No, I think he like overstayed his visa, or he wasn't on a visa that could allow him to stay, but he did.
Oh, well, huh. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
But I could be really wrong.
Yeah. I think the big reason why there's no outrage is it's so complicated that the average person just can't digest it. Um, and Medicaid isn't going away entirely. It's couched as just adding some innocent work requirements. But as we, I think, discussed last week, Arkansas ran that trial and it failed. Most people are working that are on Medicaid, number one. And then any problems that they had re-registering, and it's onerous what you have to do to stay on Medicaid. You've got to fill out all kinds of forms, and that's where they're going to the work requirements are going to get people. Is just the burden of increased paperwork. The estimate is that 16 million people will fall off of Medicaid for varying reasons. And at this very moment, there's no clear galvanizing issue that's pending. In Vietnam, it was you're going to get drafted, and that was clear. What we're going to have to do is just wait for medical bankruptcies to creep up back to where they were in 2010. And if we can remember that period, it was front page every other day. Stories about medical bankruptcy, and I'm sure there still are even today. But as Mitch McConnell said, that these are so minor they'll get over it, without really understanding what it's like. Like the governor of Arkansas witnessed this, who is a Republican, and it really didn't do much. The other point he makes, and this is a little bit embarrassing, that we Democrats have become the party of the upper class. And the Medicaid recipients in this last election wound up voting for Trump. So there's that. And then there's just reframing the whole issue and very disingenuously to say this Medicaid is going to bankrupt this country more than any other policy. It's flooding the country with illegal immigration and then giving those immigrants generous benefits. That is sophistry. And so he goes on to say, forget the minutia of Medicaid policy. This bill is going to get ICE money to get these illegal immigrants off our backs. So you look it up, as you can do now, and it does turn out to be true that 40% of the nation's undocumented workers reside in jurisdictions where they're eligible for full Medicaid. But a huge caveat, it's mostly in California. So hooray for us. These other states, these are the number of undocumented workers that are eligible for Medicaid. But of those people that are eligible, how many go to the trouble of signing up? And there's the rub. In California, only 79% actually. 59, thank you. 59% actually sign up. and that's by far the highest of all the other states. Second is Colorado, where only 9% sign up. Now, I almost wonder if I should recheck that, but not many people go to the trouble, undocumented, go to the trouble of signing up. And maybe that's because they're afraid of when they sign up being apprehended. So
Exactly.
that makes probably the most sense. In fact, it's in general entitlement spending that's bankrupting America, not benefits for illegal aliens. But the MAGA mantra is it's all fraudsters and illegals. That's who's cheating on Medicaid. And this columnist summarizes is there's no outrage because the left has become too rich and the right is too cultish. So nobody is getting worked up about this outrageous bill. And so there's a certain fatalism. Congress has abdicated for decades, so a Congress abdicating is nothing new. And it's Washington, D.C. is kind of in a learned helplessness, and it's getting worse with the Supreme Court giving the president more discretion to challenge the law. And so we haven't really seen much of a protest over his tariff madness, even though he's exempted TikTok, and even though he has an undeclared war with Iran. And people are worried about speaking out because they'll get a primary challenge and along with death threats in some extreme cases. Yes, Aiko.
So give us some examples of entitlement spending.
Social Security and Medicare. Those are the two big ones.
But using the term entitlement implies that they didn't earn it.
Uh-huh. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it is a misnomer. If you've paid in to Social Security and you've paid into Medicare, so it's something you've paid for. You're not, and it all depends on your definition of entitlement. Yeah, Bob.
Oh, I was going to say the same. The word entitlement is completely inappropriate. The money goes for Social Security and for Medicare into what are called trust funds. They are separate funding arms. They're self-funded. And frankly, if there was a 1% payroll tax to a third trust fund called Medicaid would be funded. 1% payroll tax would do it. Medicare, by the way, is a 1.45% payroll tax, and Social Security is something like 7.65%, I think.
Wow. Bob, we know who to come to for tax law. Good. Thank you. Okay, this is disturbing. Lisa Murkowski, who we talked about last week, and we're all disappointed. She's saying that her Republican colleagues are all afraid.
And herself.
This is the dark aspect of this. To such an extent that Trump has consolidated his power in his second term, he is much scarier, and we're all feeling this. And she has spoken out. The other problem is Steve Bannon says, flood the zone. There's just so much going on. This Project 2025 was ready to go. There's so much happening all at once, and even the columnist is tired. He said he really wanted to write about Trump cashing in on his office by hawking his own fragrance. And there's just not enough room. There are only so many hours in the day, and it doesn't matter because Trump has no shame. So the president doesn't care about his policies, and his supporters don't care that he doesn't care. I think that's very eloquently stated. So what's the cost of all this? How the percent of Americans who are proud being being Americans is decreasing slowly but surely until recently. There's certainly a dip, plunging downward. And then you can break it down by political party. Unsurprisingly, the Republicans are still proud. Yeah, Harold.
No, I was thinking that part of the reason people aren't proud on the left is because for a long time, even before Trump, they weren't happy with what the foreign policy was, and they blame America first, as it were. So,
yeah,
what would it take to get them proud again? Would be my question.
Yeah, and you can see that they were more proud when Biden was in office, and it plunges. So it certainly does follow who's in office. We're going to get to foreign policy, Harold, and we can re-ask that question. What would it take for Democrats to become proud? They were certainly proud when Obama was in office, almost as proud as Republicans. And then Trump came into office, and their pride took a big drop. Recovered with Biden a bit. I think this is Afghanistan. And then plunged again with Trump's second term. So a lot of it is just my team versus your team, my tribe versus your tribe.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing. I mean, I'm not seeing any huge dips on the Republican side in office.
Yeah,
So what is that telling us?
They're certainly more even keeled. And maybe when we get to the foreign policy a little bit later, we can dive a little deeper into that question. Okay, Aiko.
Yeah, I have an idea. Let's make some money. Make America proud again hats.
All right. All right. So they break it down also by age. And the older you are, the more likely you are to still be proud. But that's been dropping over time. And it's been dropping over time with some variation by each generation, each cohort. The other thing is to look at generation versus your tribe. And so it's pretty much the same thing each generation, no matter what your tribe. But again, as Harold points out, there's less variability with Republicans. I think I'm slowly formulating an answer, Harold. I think that the disposition of liberals and therefore progressives, therefore most Democrats, it is to see injustice and want to change it. Whereas the challenge for conservatives is simple, to preserve what you know is good. So it's just a structural problem, I would argue, as I slowly think this through. But for sure, and Ico have experienced this, Gen Zs are most unhappy. We encountered a neighbor recently, and it was eye-opening, the strength of this Gen Z's bitterness. And it's directed against the older generations. The older you are, the more bitter he seemed. So,
Hey, John, this is Tom. Can you hear me?
yeah.
So what age is a Gen Z about?
Let's see. One of these slides has it. I think Gen Z is after after millennials. I think somewhere around 2002, maybe.
Oh, it says Gen Zs are adults born in 1997 or later. It's right on the bottom.
On the bottom.
Aha! I knew it was somewhere, and I forgot where it was. Thank you. It takes a village. Thank you. Much.
So why don't they like senior citizens?
Because number one, it's economic, and they don't think that they're going to have the economic opportunities that we had, and boomers caught a couple of huge waves, but when they were born right into the financial crisis of 2007. And the minute they recovered from that, they were hit with the pandemic. So our generations have caught lucky waves, and their generations have caught unlucky ones. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I can tell you this, Gen Z, the young people, they want old people to move out of their houses so that they can buy them.
Yep. And they can't afford the houses. That's part of their business, bitterness, and they perceive that their economic opportunities are less. So at least the one that we encountered. Aiko.
The fellow that we encountered who made these statements, he has a good job. He has a tech job.
Yeah. So it's not always rational. He has a good job, but he imagines that we had better jobs when we were his age. Yeah. Okay. So summary, just what we've been saying: economic prospects. And of course, the intense partisanship, on the right, owning the libs, on the left, looking down our nose culturally, particularly to Midwesterners and Southerners. So we don't have to dwell on that. I got to sprinkle in a little bit of hopefulness. So what can we do? The big issue, I focus on California, one thing, and California is going to be under siege because we're going to be hit by Medicaid cuts more than anybody else, as we've seen the statistics. And that is probably so designed by Trump. So the hopeful thing is we can keep our respond to the challenge, remain peaceful, and we'll see. Every once in a while we catch a break. ICE made the mistake of arresting a bigwig in the union, the SEIU, and that turned out all his members in Los Angeles to stand up against ICE, a small glimmer of hope. And we talked a little bit previously about targeting where ICE is sleeping, and they're sleeping in hotels that are probably serviced by hospitality workers who are disproportionately immigrants, and a third of those who are undocumented. So we'll see how that plays out. And then I had to throw in this humorous column, going to see a riot, but he's happened on a quinceanera instead. So look for little bits of hope. There is some collateral damage within the Republican coalition. There's been among Republicans backsliding on gay marriage. Quite a bit coming down to zero. You can see it's plateaued for Democrats as well in the 1920s. So not quite sure what that's all about. But the irony is Peter Thiel, of course, is gay. And Trump proudly introduced him as part of his coalition in the 2016 Republican convention. So he heads an unwieldy coalition. He's held them all together just with brute force, but we'll see when people start suffering from his policies. Will go. So I'm following Fareed Zakaria to the Aspen Ideas Festival. He went there and in search of answers to some of the questions we've asked and some other ones. There are two sections on geopolitics. The first with a panel of John Bolton, David Petraeus, and Susan Rice. There's a second geopolitical one on the Middle East, and then interspersed, alternating, is a look at the urban dysfunction in Democrat cities. And is it something in the progressive ideology that is making for dysfunctional cities? And then the second domestic issue is a look at how to fix the Rust Belt and the discontent with Walter Isaacson, who Harold pointed out has written a biography of Elon Musk, along with Benjamin Franklin and other worthies. So I listened to Fareed interact with these people, and I thought it was worthwhile as part of taking stock of where we are after 6 months of Trump. The first one is the panel on geopolitics. This is John Bolton, Susan Rice, David Petraeus. And they look at particularly since the October 7th atrocity and what has changed since then. And Iran has really lost a lot. A degradation of his allies. We've been over this before. First, Hezbollah was taken out with the beeper programming that blew up as Hezbollah high functionaries answered their pager. And certainly Hamas has suffered ultimately. We'll see. It's still playing out in Gaza. The Houthis, however, are still defiant, and not only are they disrupting Red Sea traffic flow through the Suez Canal, but they're also targeting Israel as we speak, and Syria has fallen. Their Shia partner there, the Assads, is thrown out, and now there's a Sunni government there, and Iraq itself, which was kind of in Iran's back pocket, is a little bit more independent now. So quite a shift just in the last since October 7th. The other point they agreed on was the Gulf states. And we read more and more about Bahrain and Qatar and UAE, Oman, Kuwait, but mainly these three. Just the Gulf states sitting snuggled in next to Saudi Arabia across from Iran. And they're doing a lot with AI and unexpected things. They're diversifying their economies, and they're going to be players in what the panel called the India Mideast corridor. So you just go over here past Iran through Afghanistan, and you're in India. So some of this will be by sea, but that's what's changed geopolitically. There was a humorous exchange with Fareed, where Fareed said, your relationship with Trump is complicated, and he says it's not complicated. They just hate each other, period. And then Fareed said, during the first administration, when you guys weren't getting along, you were working for him, but he would criticize you in public about being crazy, that all you wanted to do was bomb Iran, but then he ended up bombing Iran.
Can I stop you here for a second, John?
Sure.
This is Homer. So
Yeah.
see if I get my picture up. I have been stopped a dozen times by, well, maybe not quite a dozen, maybe 9 times on the street by people who ask me if I know how much I look like John Bolton.
You do?
Yep, all the time. And I answer that I recognize that same gene pool, but I'm much nicer.
You do. By God, you do, Homer. Okay. anyway, Bolton describes Trump's decisions like a vast archipelago of dots, and you can't figure it out because he can't figure it out. Anyway, he's quite a hawk. Really thinks we should finish off Iranian nuclear weapons program, period, and is very much for regime change. So he says this is our best chance since we first were confronted by them in 1979 when they took our embassy staff as hostages. Susan Rice, though, thinks that bombing them was a big mistake, that the unintended consequence was weakening the opposition within Iran, because when you're being attacked by another country, there's an instinct to rally around the flag. And so she sees that as being a strategic blunder. And only diplomacy will work. You need inspectors, which we had until the bombing. The International Atomic Energy Agency was overseeing the nuclear sites. Whether they were doing it efficiently is another question. And was there cheating? Yes. But her contention is that you do need inspectors. North Korea was able to get their program off the ground surreptitiously because we didn't have inspectors. Yeah, Harold.
Yeah, well, the inspectors in Iran, before they went out, said that the Iranians are building a bomb. That's their program.
Yeah. So that was like the week before, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe they had an inkling that the bombing was going to get bombed.
Yeah.
My point is that you can have inspectors, but you had inspectors in Iraq, and they were fooled by the other way around. They thought that Saddam had weapons of mass destruction, and he didn't. So,
yeah, and that was kind of perverse. Saddam pretended like he did have, thinking that would protect him, and instead it guaranteed his downfall. Yeah, so that very strange.
Yeah, so I don't agree with Susan Rice.
Yeah, no, especially at this moment, everything's up in the air. The other thing about North Korea, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Pakistan sold them secrets. There was a guy that was much honored in Pakistan as the father of the Pakistan bomb. And I think it was later disclosed that he'd made some money by selling secrets to North Korea.
That sounds right.
Yeah. So the point that Susan Rice makes is it's crazy. We're aligning with our adversaries. We've in Africa, dismantling USAID in Africa means that China is going to be able to exert more influence in Africa from the vacuum that's created. And the Voice of America, I just don't understand why the Voice of America was withdrawn. The other point she makes is that a lot of infectious diseases are hatched in Africa, HIV being, I guess, the biggest example. Of course, COVID was from Asia, from China, but surely every part of the globe should have good governance for infectious disease, and we just withdrew a lot of support for African governments. And the only thing that makes sense is this sovereigntist argument we presented last week that Trump, he's not an isolationist by any means, as we've seen in Iran, and we're going to see in just a second with the BRIC alliance. He's a sovereigntist, which means he just wants to do what he wants to do. And is he going to isolate his influence to a sphere around America? It doesn't seem like that. And just today, he criticized Putin for talking shit. What was that, Tom? Okay, we'll move on. A Lancet study just came out June 30th, and they assert from 2001 to 2021, 20 years, programs funded by USAID prevented 92 million deaths. That deserves some research. In 133 countries, and the Lancet study estimates that the cuts Trump has made will result in 14 million deaths in the next 5 years, or about 4.5 million will be children under the age of 5. So pretty sobering statistics. They definitely deserve scrutiny. And so part of his sphere of influence is, at least until this morning, when he scolded Putin, has been the inexplicable admiration he showed Putin in his first term. And Xi too. He likes strong men. And so what's the downside of letting Putin do what he wants in Europe and letting Xi do what he wants in Asia? Well, Susan Rice says that is dangerous, especially when, and I've collected from a few articles the next data on the next few slides, the Russian casualties since the invasion in 2022, and we're up to over 1 million. And the economists looked at the comparable suffering in previous interventions. And you see Russia's current intervention in Ukraine, they bit off more than they can chew. So here they are out here close to 1 million at the time this was done. Compared to Vietnam, we can see it's about 40% of what Russia's taking. In Korea, even less, and even more less when Russia was the Soviet Union. Afghanistan, they were chased out with a much lower number of casualties. So this gives you some history going back to the 1950s of the cost of intervention. So this, what Russia's doing in Ukraine is truly historical. Nothing since the end of World War II matches it. And this was another article that just looked at how Russia is dealing with all these casualties. They're buying families off. there are payouts to families who've lost sons, and they're not having to draft unwilling soldiers. Instead, they're giving bonuses, huge bonuses, to get men to go and sacrifice. And quite often, they're willing to sacrifice for their family, so the family will get a bonus, and they will be honored in their death. So truly a death cult. Um, Meanwhile, and this is from this week's Economist, they're putting on an arts festival in Moscow. All Putin has to do is keep the people of Moscow and St. Petersburg happy. That's the only place. And I think Vladivostok had a bit of a demonstration. But that's all he has to do. And so this summer, he's distracting the citizens of Moscow. And he's not fooling anybody. Everybody knows that it's kind of a schizophrenic, that there's repression at the same time as consumption and living life well. Any sites that were sites of former rallies and protests have totally been changed with flowers and trees around them. And bizarrely, you have this yoga, public yoga, surrounded by flowers. But one observer said, then you walk around the corner and you see people queuing outside a prison to try to get care packages to their loved ones who are in jail for protesting against the war. Quite bizarre. So the BRICS, this is a grouping of countries that wanted to offer an alternative to the G7 or the G8. And who are these lesser countries slightly in gross national product? Brazil, Russia, Iran, China, and South Africa. And so on this map, you see in red the BRICS, the original BRICS. But since then, China in particular has wanted to form an alternative to the G7. So they've expanded into the Middle East and Africa and Argentina. And then furthermore, other people have applied for membership. Okay. And so Trump, who supposedly doesn't care about the rest of the world, all of a sudden he's targeting the BRICS, and he's adding a 10% tariff for all these countries that are say they're for the global South, but that annoys him. And what's interesting, they're meeting as we speak in Rio de Janeiro, and Xi Jinping decided not to come, that this wasn't the year he was going to come. So that's interesting. That's interesting. Bolton is pretty much reminding people that China is going to be stronger geopolitically in Africa, and that all Trump wants is the Nobel Peace Prize. And he's so chaotic. When he was working with him, Trump didn't even have a daily schedule. And he says maybe that's good for Manhattan real estate, but it's no way to run a country, much less a world. But Bolton cautions about overestimating the damage. That there's a recency bias, and let's not. The last 6 months have been so painful. And then, tongue in cheek, he says, let's remember 6 months is over. We're one eighth of the way through. It's almost over. All right. So the next topic is a domestic one, a cautionary tale in the heart of New York City. But Iko just reminds me that we're already past 3. And we can come back next week and discuss those. So I'll throw it open. Take over, Jim.
Just wanted to say in the chat, Carol and I have laid out how Musk became a citizen. Also, I read this morning that Bibi says he has nominated Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a slide, and if you really want the Nobel Peace Prize, find somebody who's not indicted by the International Criminal Court. Just remember that the Nobel Peace Prize is awarded by Norwegians, and that's just the way it is.
Didn't Yasser Arafat get shared a prize for the Nobel Peace Prize?
Did he? I can't remember.
The Oslo Accords?
With Menachem and Begin.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was Anwar Sadat, and
That was way before.
yeah, but I think that's who got the Nobel. But maybe I don't know. I can't remember. I
think all this discussion on is a little distracting on immigration and some of these other topics of the ease which would solve some of these tax and financial problems, and that is this absolute authority to keep the tax rates on the wealthiest individuals low. That a 5% tax on the highest 20% earners would pay for all the Medicare cuts, USAID, all these things that they've cut. It would be so simple, and those people wouldn't even miss it. They would not miss that money at all.
They would not.
But that was never even discussed by either side on about the bill that just passed. It was just automatic that it's going to be continued.
Very good point. Can I throw in my top concern of the first 6 months and of the big, beautiful bill? It's the huge funding of ICE, the building of concentration camps. Was it $85 billion, a 357% increase in the funding for ICE? And these are for police forces, sort of unauthorized police forces wearing masks. You cannot identify them if you're damaged by them. They can arrest and ship you out of the country without due process. And it's like a new brown black shirt army.
Yeah.
And he may turn it. He's said he wants to go after the homegrowns. That's us, guys.
Amen.
Lock your door.
Don't go out. Don't speak up.
Well, man, I just happened to look at the latest news, and apparently there was a raid in downtown LA, MacArthur Park. I think Karen Bass showed up and
Yes.
confronted the ICE guy. So we got to find that can give you a sense of purpose. Just stopping um, people who we know, of the immigrant population in California, 1/3 of workers, 1/3 of workers are undocumented. So your landscaper, your maid, it's a day, that movie, A Day Without a Mexican, this is hitting close to home, and you would hope that proud Californians could put up a bit of a fight. I think Gavin Newsom is, for many different reasons, would be welcome a fight, but I don't know. We'll see.
Well, what I'm always interested in is that who is who are is it because of money that these guys are they're able to get this huge amount of force to be able to go out and uh, round up people? Uh, how do in what morality does one say that they can go out and do something like that? I just don't understand it. I mean, why?
This budget bill now, the budget for ICE now is bigger than the FBI, the CIA, and the other federal law enforcement agencies put together.
Yeah. So
Steve Miller,
where are they finding the people in order to staff that kind of an army?
Proud Boys.
Yeah, but how many Proud Boys are there in the world?
Wannabe, I guess quite a few.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's just kind of mind-boggling to me.
Well, didn't the Supreme Court just give Trump the opportunity to fulfill his agenda, whatever that means, but he's been given the green light by the Supreme Court.
That's right.
But still, he's got to raise the army. I'm just
Well, there's
surprised.
plenty of right wing people.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Yeah.
Well, hit them at weak spots. If they've got to sleep somewhere, and if the hotels, and I don't know, this is going to play out, and there's going to be a lot of offense, but it seemed like we can hope that there'll be ingenuity and defense to not let this go to the point where there's mass deportation. There's no reason for mass deportation.
It's going to happen, John.
I know, but how can we stop it? And just look for opportunities with the social media, and there should be more defense available, especially in California.
Well, we just have to vote out every Republican congressman in California.
They're an endangered species as it is.
Well, in the Bay Area, maybe, but not across the state.
And how exactly is that going to solve the problem, by voting out Republican congressmen?
Well, if we're going to have midterms, Congress could wake up with a Democrat majority. It could become a break. It could become a balance of power, a check and balance on the executive.
Well, that's going to have to happen in the other states.
Yeah, that's
If it doesn't happen
California
here,
can secede. How about that? Modest proposal.
Well, we'll see. We're going to be surprised. There's going to be a lot of surprises and a lot of things before long. So just remember recency bias.
Yeah, I think John Bolton has a few pearls to pay attention to.
Yeah. Who'd have thought we'd be, us progressives are looking fondly back at Ronald Reagan and Richard Nixon. Oh, the enlightened Republicans.
So this is Carol. Do you think that the demonstrations, like the No King's Day, do you think that has any influence with the legislators?
No.
Well, not
I
yet.
think maybe not yet is the right answer, but I think it will. You have
Yeah.
to keep it up.
Yeah, you gotta keep your team together. After in basketball, after a loss, right, Ed? You gotta say, hold it together. We'll get them next game. We'll get them next season. All right. So
Well, I just went out and bought a car, and so and 60% of it was built in the U.S. And of course, the other 40% are probably from all over the rest of the world.
yeah.
What did you buy?
Huh?
A Ford,
did-
probably.
What? Excuse me? I bought a Camry, and Toyota. So but yeah, it has all of the bells and whistles, I guess, or not all the bells and whistles, but it's enough to get by, and but it's a hybrid.
Good for you.
All right.
Okay, thank you, John.
All right.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
See you next week.
Thank you.
Bye
Next week.
Bye.
bye.
Bye-bye. See you, John Bolton.
Yeah, see you, John. Thanks. Got to figure out how to leave. Don't want to say goodbye, I guess.
I'm hanging around trying to get the chat notices.
Bye-bye, John.
See you, Homer.
That was good. It was interesting. Interesting times. I did feel like saying, but I feel like killing myself. It's just too much. I mean, God, the Supreme Court approved. So what's going to happen? It's really, dangerous, dangerous times. Because he is the dictator.